It's the show the establishment warned you about.
And this is Dr. Tommy Show, coming to you live from Wesley Chapel. Actually, coming to you live from Lutz. I always get that screwed up sometimes.
Habit of, using
We've been in Wesley. We've been out of Wesley Chapel for more than a year.
About 14 months now.
Whoa. Yeah, we're out of practice. The Dr. Tommy Show is brought to you by Atlas MD, which is your preeminent medical software for membership medicine practices, which includes direct primary care, concierge medicine. The reason I like it, one of the reasons, is the detailed charge report you get we do it on the 1st and the 15th. So this morning we got a charge report, showed all the charges that went through, so you can go through and look and see, make sure everyone's subscriptions went through that needed subscriptions or separate invoices.
Yes, it's
that's
very easy.
Included with Atlas MD without any extra software, any extra passwords, any extra accounts, any extra people to talk to, which is key in this business. It's not talking to people. Not the people. If we had to talk to Atlas MD, that's okay.
Right.
But you never really have to. But if you talk to, name it, anybody outside of your practice, when you do a small practice like this, it's oftentimes painful and calls for adult beverages.
Drink.
Yeah.
Or two.
But anyway, Atlas MD, if you want to try it, if you're a physician out there and you're considering doing this, and there's probably a lot more doctors considering doing this, meaning outside of insurance practice, than any time other in the history, go to drtommyshow.com and click on the special offer for Atlas MD. Then you can try it for free for 2 months, which is a $600 value. We've had a number of patients who've joined this practice after watching the show, or they watch the show and they hear something about something they're interested in or something they agree with, and they join the practice. Mm-hmm. And one of them is this idea that insurance should not control your health care and that you should not have to ask permission for things to be done. They like that. It's that libertarian type of mindset where you don't have to tell me what I can do.
Right. I had patients. I called in some medication for a patient to a local pharmacy, and then they said, and then I needed to call something else in. And I said, well, how about I send this one to Publix because it's free? Mm-hmm. And how about I go ahead and the one I called into Sam's, I think it was, or Costco. How about I go ahead and call it into Publix as well, because you can also get it there for free. And then they were like, yeah, great. And I said, well, I'll cancel the one at Costco and Sam's. Were like, no, don't do it. We'll just get it. We can do what we want. We don't have insurance.
That's right. It's such a beautiful thing. It's like when Olivia had her ultrasound done, our baby here, she had a little sacral dimple. So they wanted to ultrasound to make sure there wasn't any spinal cord issues, and there weren't, thankfully. Anyway, so we went in and the lady's like, okay, so, we need your insurance card, blah, blah, blah. And then we had just had told her that we don't have insurance, because at that time, the insurance for the baby, they wanted you to pay $400 so that you could basically have the option of being covered. But the things that they cover in the hospital are like only 2 things, and she wouldn't have been even covered anyway. Right. So in short of it, we ended up paying cash for her to be born, for her part of it, her stay. And anyway, so we just got finished telling her that we don't have insurance. We don't need it for her. And then she goes, okay. And then she goes, okay, now I need to see your insurance card. Oh, wait, I don't have to see that. Yes. It's such a relief. It's just like,
it was
how much is it?
For her to ask twice.
Yeah. Here's my card. Here's my cash, check, credit card, whatever. And away we go. That's right.
And it was $100 test, maybe $120 we paid. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Anyway, we were going to have to pay the monthly premium plus a $6,000 deductible.
Yeah, so we have to pay a deductible to get the privilege. So we have to pay $400 for the privilege of paying for a deductible. And then what you do is pay their contracted rate.
Right.
So I'm sure their contracted rate would be more than what the cash pay price was.
Yes, most definitely.
It's insanity. It's stupid. And that's why more and more people are ditching that whole extreme paperwork, is extreme middleman system. It's like, imagine making something simple very hard. That's what they did. it used to go to the doctor and you pay $20. It looks at your throat, wrote you a prescription, wrote about a 3-page note. So what happens is the government gets involved because people pay the government to get involved. So these middlemen get paid and they say, you know what, we should make that visit. Instead of saying that they came in for a visit, call it this code and then call it this code and then call it this code. And then we'll have this guy and his job will be to review your codes. And then he'll submit a payment to you if your codes are all right. But if they're not, then they'll submit a code back to you saying that they're not right and you have to correct the codes. And then 3 months later, you can get paid. And then it's going to cost, instead of $20, it's going to be $120. And the doctor's like, well, why would I do that?
Yes.
But unfortunately, they didn't ask the doctors that. They just did it. The government did. You know, they passed all these laws. We have to have all these codes. And then all these middlemen came involved. And here we are with this bastardization of a quote unquote healthcare program that we have, or healthcare system that we have, which is just a huge mess of bureaucracy and incompetence and extreme paperwork and payments for nothing. You know, this morning we had a problem with radiology. So they said that, I forgot what they said. What did they say?
Well, I called to see if a patient had told me last week, he told me on Wednesday they had an appointment on Thursday. So I was expecting the report to be here this morning, and I called to find out whether he had an appointment or not. They, of course, had no record of him. Anyway, he ended up having an appointment today, even though they did not know that. And then they were quoting him a price of $85.
Yeah.
And we've been given prices of $25 to $30.
But then when you tell people that, they're just like, who cares? You know, they can't be bothered.
Yeah, she said, where did you get this price from? The patient told me you quoted him $35. And I said, yes. And she said, well, where did you get that number from? It's the same number that we've had for years. And then she said, oh, we've
Since
had
2013.
Yes. And they had a price increase in July. So it is a little frustrating. You know, they had a price increase in July, but it failed to let us know because, like you said, you know, we're a small volume office.
Yeah. They don't care about
and our patients that pay $35
they want to
here
bill
and there is not important.
Some buca plan for an MRI. That's their goal. They want to bill some buca plan for an MRI, and they'll get $5,000 for it.
Now
that's what they want to do. They don't care about.
She did tell me though.
Cash X-rays.
She did tell me that they were going to speak with the manager and see if they would honor the price since we were not notified of the price increase. So he emailed me. I'm going to ask him what he paid. But it is frustrating though that
it makes things like the Surgery Center of Oklahoma so beautiful. It makes it such an awesome thing to just say, you know what, come in here. This is what the price is. There's two prices when you go to Surgery Center of Oklahoma. And Dr. Smith can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there's two prices. You pay for a consult. I think it's $200. And I don't know if that's wrapped into the total price or not, but basically they say, look, can we do what you need done? And if they can't, then they keep the $200. Okay. But if they can, then they say, okay, now that's the price for the consult is $200. Now the price for your knee operation is this. The price for your prostate surgery is this. The price for your ENT surgery is this. And that's it. It includes everything that they do. It includes a surgeon, it includes the anesthesiologist, includes everything. And that's the beautiful thing that we have, that they have done there. And if we had more of that in our world, it would be so much more beautiful for us.
Well, we had the ortho center in Clearwater that we have a patient going to. So I'm interested to find out how that works out for her. I'm sure that'd be just as good. I mean, I know it's only ortho. Yeah. But
she's fussy, huh?
Well,
so
yeah,
Olivia's 5 months old now, 6 months old. And so, last time we covered something that Healthcare-onomics retweeted, and it's that you can start feeding children new foods earlier than they thought. So allergists, or foods that cause allergies, typically like peanuts and
strawberries,
any of these things. If you feed them to them, you can feed them to them. And even if they cause a rash, you can still do that.
Eggs, which she did get a rash.
Just as long as you keep going, because if you don't, then they may develop an allergy.
Right.
And so that was something that was new to us when we went to see our doctor or see her doctor. And it's been a kind of interesting thing because now she can try as long as the consistency's right.
Right. You do have to we make our own food, so you do have to make sure that you're pureeing it.
You can do meat even if you want.
We haven't tried that yet. I don't believe, have we? But she had mashed potatoes the other day, and I just, made them a little runny. I think we pretty much do stage 1 right now. But it's great. There's no limits. She can have whatever she wants.
The new thing on the news is that border security bill has been, they put it forward, and this is something that's coming out of Washington, D.C., and this is supposed to be something that we're all intrigued by and we're all following with bated breath. And now it's apparently got a bunch of poison pills in it to where it's going to make things very difficult for Trump to build a wall, even though that was the reason that they delayed it. And
so he signed the bill?
He hasn't signed it yet.
Oh, okay. But maybe he's not going to agree to it.
Who knows? But this is all just a. There's out there. Let me just back up. There's out there people who believe that the government is both the federal government and local government, but the federal government for sure is very competent, very caring, very smart, very good at solving problems. There are people out there who believe that, if you can believe that. And so those same people think that this is okay, that our government is so, paid off, that they are able to delay doing basic things like funding the basic government operations because of political differences over immigration, which is what it comes down to. So Democrats want these people to move in, occupy Democrat-owned states, essentially. So places like California. Democrats want people to move to California en masse who are illegal.
Well, even Texas, there was thousands of voters.
Texas eventually.
There was thousands of voters that voted that shouldn't say thousands of voters, but there was several thousand people voted that should not have voted.
So there's two reasons that you want it. One is because you're going to get voters eventually who maybe will become citizens or illegal votes. But the other reason is if you go to a state like California, which it's a Democrat state every time. If you go to a state like that and you put more people in there who are illegals, when they do the census, it's going to show that the census report shows that they're going to have to get more representatives in California. Let me see here. So, that's the major reason is they don't understand, or Republicans, is that the reason for it is if you flood California with more voters, more citizens, when they do the census, they don't say how many people in your house are citizens live here. They say how many people live here.
Right.
And say, well, we have 3 legal and 5 illegal.
Oh, they say that.
Well, I'm just saying, but they don't ask that.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No one says that.
Yeah, they say we have 8.
We have 3 people that are living in our house that are illegal. Is that okay?
Yeah. But see, that's what happens is then you take a state like California, which is going to be solid. You can always bet that New York and California, every election is going to vote Democrat. So what you do is, and when they do the census, when they reapportion this Senate representatives, because there's only 435, someone will have to lose and some will gain. And that's what happened. That's the main goal. So anyway, back to my point is, so immigration is this political problem that they have a disagreement on. So the government's going to be threatened to be shut down again, and we're supposed to be all worried about that. And yet, there are people out there, this is how it ties into what we're talking about, who believe that Medicare for all is going to be a smart thing.
They've never really experienced it, though. That's the thing. They don't know. They've never needed an MRI. These people, I would think. Well, what else? I can't think of any other reason.
Here's what they think. I think we've talked about this before. This is what I think. If you say, hey, drop some, do like Mark Dice and go meet some random person on the sidewalk. Say, what do you think about Medicare for all? Do you think healthcare should be a right? And I say, yeah. And what do they think? They think that when healthcare is a right, quote unquote, meaning it doesn't cost you, someone's going to just give it to you. But by the simple fact of waking up in the morning and taking a breath, you are now entitled to this healthcare service. They think that not only is that healthcare service going to be free to them, they think it's going to be awesome. They think they're going to see the doctor whenever they want. They think they're going to have no problems getting their medications. They think that Everything's going to be covered. And why do they believe this? Why?
Well, I
mean, what in their life has ever told them that this is how government operates? That's what I don't understand.
Right. Talk to anyone that has Florida Healthy Kids.
Yeah.
For their child. They have a very select few of doctors that they can go see. And then it takes a month or longer to get in to see, especially a specialist, to get in to see this physician. And it's never, it's never a good experience. No, I shouldn't say never, but most of the time it's not a good experience.
We'll talk to anybody who's ever, just dealt with the government on any basic level. Social Security Administration, Medicare. If you deal with those groups, it's insane to me that you would think, okay, they've done such a great job at the post office. Not to degrade postal workers, but the post office as a system is running deficits. They don't have enough money to pay. They have this, it's just like any government agency. There's any government agency that they're overrun with bureaucracy, and yet there are people out there who believe. Yet this belief, this strong belief in the government, this unfounded belief in the government, is so dangerous today. Because it fuels, like people like Ocasio-Cortez. I honestly believe she believes the things that she says. I think she does. I think she believes that government has the power to, for instance, replace airplanes in 10 years or whatever she wants to do. She believes that government, through taxation and whatever else, confiscation, has the power to rebuild every building to be a green building. I mean, these insane things. But I don't think they're just putting it on. I believe they believe it.
I don't know what she thinks. She's just absolutely crazy.
I don't know. They got to believe it.
When I watch her, I almost think this can't be real.
Well, here's the thing. People believe, I just saw Chuck Schumer posted something, that climate change is caused by humans. Caused by humans basically within the last 50 years. Right, because of the hairspray, the SUVs. But the answer is, okay, so the answer is, I think Chuck said in his tweet, climate change is real. Climate change is caused by humans. And the third point was, we've got to do something about climate change or something like that. Yeah, okay, so let's say you take the first two at face value. Climate change is real. Yes, of course, climate change is real. Mm-hmm. There used to be something called the Ice Age. There used to be something called a Pangea, which is when the landmass was just one landmass and it's separated. Okay, so yeah, climate change, things happen. Okay, that's real. Humans cause climate change. All right, let's say you even believe that. Let's say that you believe that cars driving around cause as much or more damage than volcanoes or solar rays or anything. And not only that the Earth is so fragile that has withstood all these changes, that it's so fragile that the exhaust from your car is going to make basically the ice caps melt, like Al Gore said would happen. Hadn't happened yet. Anyway, so let's take this first. Then the third thing is you have to believe that this is the key. Government in itself and the people who run government, the elected people who've been in, let's say like people like Joe Biden, who's no longer in Congress, but been there since they were from their 30s to their 70s. Mm-hmm. Those people are smart enough to craft policies to reverse everything that we have done bad. Mm-hmm. Those people are smart. How come they haven't figured out what to do about this global warming? Just need more money, more time and more money, more donations, more conferences that you fly your private jet to. And line up Leonardo as your keynote speaker on his private jet. I like Leonardo. It's just insanity that people have this belief in government. That is the most dangerous thing, I think, a threat to liberty, is people who will willingly give up their liberty for the promise of government fruit, which has never, it'd be like if you say, look, I believe this tree is going to give me fruit. This tree is going to give me fruit and it's going to feed my family. It has never given me fruit yet. Not only has it not given me fruit, what it has given me is stuff that's made me sick. Mm-hmm. But I believe we're going to just get more fruit from this tree. Keep fertilizing it, maybe next year. keep fertilizing, keep throwing money at it. It's like the war on poverty, 1960s started. 40 years later, the identical percentage of people are in poverty. minus something like $20 trillion worth of expenditures. And all that's gone to different, and that's the whole key to it is government solves problems on the face value. That's what they're saying. So the war on poverty was to solve poverty. Medicare is to make old people have health care. What it's really done is all it's done is taken money from citizens and given them to corporations. Well, how's that going to work? So war on poverty, give people food stamps, give people housing credits, blah, blah, blah. They turn around and hand them to corporations.
Right.
Medicare.
More money to spend on fancy jeans at their local Macy's.
Yeah. So directly and indirectly, they get money through. So let's say that you do not pay for health care. You do not pay for your housing. You do not pay for your food. Well, then suddenly you got money to go buy an iPhone. So that makes sense to all the corporations involved. The housing, the people who get paid for housing, the people who get paid for the providing the food, the people who get paid for health care, and then the people who make the iPhone. So all it does is just take money. So if people would ever sit down and think, rich, and all these policies that they purport to want, places like California, want free health care and everything, they would actually have the money to do that in their own locale if they wanted to, if they stopped sending their money to Washington. But the key is it's like whenever you make a sacrifice, you don't want to do it yourself. It's like, they always say, Bill Gates always says, and Warren Buffett say, look, we need to pay more taxes. And then Rush will say, well, you're free to write a check to the government.
Yes,
but they don't really want to pay more taxes. They say that to protect themselves, but everyone's got to be involved. Everyone's got to do it. So we all got to pay more taxes. So you and I got to pay more taxes. Our patients have to pay more taxes. And you say, well, they're not billionaires. Yeah, but everybody's got to get involved. That's a team effort. In the meantime, these politicians will cash checks from donors and then steer taxpayer money their way to their corporation. It's sick.
It is.
That article
it's a corrupt system.
That article I was telling you about last night, this is one thing, it was another thing that was bothering me, is something about, it was on Doximity, which is like a social media site for physicians. And it says, the hospital is not your friend. Then one of the physicians that I know posted on there, I don't want to get too specific, but anyway, he posted that basically he'd been there since he was an intern, and he had advanced all the way up to the executive ranks, and then they laid him off. And they not only laid him off, they walked him out of there. He called it a perp walk in this humiliating fashion. And the point of it is that this is how you get treated by the quote unquote system. So this is a man who was a physician from his very early years all the way up through the ranks, and they get treated like this.
Well, you were not treated the best when you left. They would not even tell your patients where you went or going.
And that's common practice.
Yeah.
And that's not anything against where I left. That's everywhere.
I mean, I don't understand it. Why would they not want to say, we understand that you enjoyed your physician. You had a great relationship. Let us tell you where your physician's going.
Because it's all about keeping the money.
That's right. They want to keep that patient there with them, even if they're not happy.
Yeah. And so all of these corporations treat physicians as if they were providers. And they even call them providers.
I just read an article about that, Authentic Medicine, I believe, about physicians being called providers.
And it's a way to homogenize things. So it's a way to say, look, all of you people are the same. And not only are you the same, but you're interchangeable.
Well, the article...
So let's say you're a family medicine provider. You're not Dr. McElroy. You're our family medicine provider.
Well, the reason for the article,
to stop us from firing you and put another one in.
The article was saying that they were saying one of the reasons why they do that is because, when the medical assistant or the nurse, whoever it is working the patient up, triaging them, they can just say, oh, the provider will be with you now, instead of saying the nurse practitioner will be with you now, because then the patient's going to say, why am I seeing a nurse practitioner? Why am I not seeing the doctor? Or the PA will be with you now, or whoever it is.
So not only is it to homogenize things and make providers quote unquote interchangeable, it's also to be deceitful to the patient.
Exactly.
So that's a double insult. Yes. Isn't that ridiculous?
Yes.
And that's what the corporate healthcare culture is about.
And plus, the article to me was, so our medical assistants and the staff, whoever it is triaging the patient, and they so ignorant that they can't go ahead and go into detail and say,
today nurse practitioner Sue will see you.
Yes. Why am I not seeing the physician?
Because the physician has 5,000 patients.
Right.
And you're one of them.
Right.
And guess what? He can't see 5,000. But see, that's bringing to light, that's back to this whole point of deceit. And this whole thing about these big corporations and the government, they all operate on this false premise. So the false premise of government is that we can solve problems. We can solve the war on poverty. We're going to reverse climate change. We're going to do all this. And it's complete horse excrement. It's bull. And same thing with the healthcare system is, oh, you know, this is going to be you're going to be your medical home and blah, blah, blah. And then the reality is this doctor that you're seeing now has been hired. We're going to swap them out anytime we want with another provider. It's just another one of our providers. And you may not even see a doctor today. You may see a nurse practitioner or PA, but we're not even going to tell you that until you find out on your own. Mm. That's, you know, there are doctors out there, though, who, the doctors who came before us allowed this to happen. The doctors who came before us allowed this to happen because they were promised one thing, networks. Mm-hmm. So the insurance companies came in and said, look, Dr. Smith, instead of you having to go out and hang a shingle and go talk on the, circuit and say who you are, look, just sign up. You're going to be one of our doctors. You'll be in our network. And voila, you're going to have a full schedule of patients. People that graduate, especially from like primary care or even specialties, they don't ever have to worry about accumulating patients. They don't ever have to. They just sign up for these big corporations. Mm-hmm. They become an employee, and then their schedule slowly gets filled. I mean, it may be slower at first, mm-hmm. but eventually it gets filled. And then you get to the point of one time when you rub the administration wrong, and you get perp walked out of your own place that you thought was your office. Mm-hmm. You get perp walked out. That happens, and that is only going to become even more cold if it ever happens under Medicare for All. And here's the other ruse: is people believe, well, Medicare for All won't happen because insurance companies have too much money. Well, who do you think is going to run Medicare for All? Right. Do you think that the government's going to build all of this? No, they're just going to hire these companies, big healthcare companies, to be the contractor. So instead of it being Medicare for All run by Medicare, it's going to be Medicare for All, just like it is now. Medicare is run by contractors. In Florida, we used to have to deal with a contractor who was a Medicare contractor. And
what's the reimbursement rate going to be for these physicians? They're going to have to see, they already see 50 patients a day. They're going to have to see 100 patients a day so they can get back, so they can get paid maybe $10 for the one patient.
Or maybe they won't. Maybe they'll do it. They'll slow it down and they'll say, look, Dr. Smith's overworked. He's now a federal employee, and so he's entitled to his leave, and he's taking leave now. And so, you are going to be able to see this nurse practitioner, or you can wait in 6 months and see the doctor, or you can 3 months for a nurse practitioner, 6 months for a doctor. And then you say, well, what's my recourse? I want to go see another doctor. Well, no, you're in Medicare for All. So who did you talk to? Who's your benefit manager? What are you talking about? Oh, your Medicare for All benefit manager. I don't know. Well, you have to call them. You have to do an appeal. You have to go online. You have to create an account, and then you have to do an appeal. And under the appeal, you have to say why. It doesn't say that my doctor got sick and I can't see him now. Well, you have to say other, and then you put in there, what happened. And then in 6 weeks, some other low-level flunky just like me will get back to you and say your appeal has been denied. Then you'll have another right for an appeal. And that's what people don't understand. That exists. That exists now in the Social Security system. I went through it with my mother, who was mentally ill, schizophrenic. Mm-hmm. They determined after 20 years that no longer did she have mental illness. She was now anxiety, NOS, done by a psychologist. So here's a woman who had been hospitalized for mental illness in the early 80s, determined by a psychologist, nothing is psychologist, but by a psychologist, after a 15-minute interview, to have anxiety. And then I had to go through all this BS to get her Social Security benefits reinstated. But that's the thing. That's the crushing foot of government that people don't understand. And I don't understand why they don't. Mm-hmm. Maybe because they've been isolated. Well, I think they lived in a bubble.
Well, they just haven't experienced it. I guess they haven't. They have not experienced it. But like I said before, when you talk to someone who's had Florida Healthy Kids, And they didn't have it before, but they're on it now.
Yeah.
They have their child on it for whatever
They're like,
reason.
what is this?
Yes, I can't believe this is the way it is. I can't believe that I have to wait this long to see a physician. I just think because they haven't experienced it.
And they don't have, and here's the other, so that's one thing. So what is my job? What is our job? Our job is not to say you have to experience this. Our job is to educate you to be suspicious. So when the government comes along and says, hey, vote for us, we're going to stop climate change, you have to be suspicious. You have to say, well, what do you mean you're going to stop? How are we going to stop climate change? What do you even mean by climate change? And then when Chuck Schumer sends this tweet out that says, climate change is real, it's caused by humans, we're going to stop it, you don't just click like and retweet. You think, well, what do you mean climate change is real? Of course climate change is real. You have to think.
Well, that's the thing also. I believe that people, they hear things and they believe it without doing their own research.
And they want to believe it because it's the easiest thing to do, to believe something based on an emotional level. Okay,
so something just even as simple as yesterday, we were driving in the car and the radio host said unemployment rate was 8% in Minnesota. Yeah. And you said 8%, that seems awful high. Let me look. So you look it up and it's really only 3%. 3%. But everyone, I mean, how many people think, oh, wow, the unemployment rate's 8%?
Without ever checking anything.
Without ever checking because they believe everything that, comes out of people's mouth.
Especially if they want to hear it.
I mean, that's just something very little.
Especially if they want to hear it.
Most people don't care probably what the unemployment rate is in Minnesota.
So let's say that you're in Hillsborough County. Let's say this. So you're in Hillsborough County and somebody comes along and says, hey, the kids, the roofs are falling in on their heads and the air conditioners don't work. You say, well, why is that? Well, they don't have enough money. So let's pass a 1% sales tax. I don't know if it's 1% or 0.5%. Anyway, let's pass the sales tax. It's going to be on the books for 30 years. Now we'll finally have air conditioners and roofs. And you say, yeah, I'll vote for that. Mm-hmm. And if you're in Hillsborough County, then you did 60% of the time. You never sit back to think, well, why don't you have air conditioners? Mm-hmm. Why don't you have roofs? Is it because you don't have enough money? Is it because you've misspent the money? Mm-hmm. Why is it? Is it because why? And people don't, they just vote with their hearts and they say, well, poor Johnny, we can't have him sweating to death. We better pass that thing. And they believe it. It's insane.
Well, I don't know, an abundance of kids in Hillsborough County, but from the kids that I do know in Hillsborough County, even Pasco County, I don't know anyone that goes without air conditioning. I've never had a parent complain to me or in a casual conversation.
Like our kids' air conditioner went out?
Yes. Have you?
No. But
I just wonder: is it one school?
So maybe it is
true. 2 schools?
Maybe it is true. But what is the reason for it? It's just this thing with healthcare. People are like healthcare is too expensive. Yes, healthcare is too expensive because of all the bull crap that you pay for that is not related to healthcare. Mm. That's inserted in the way that is done through legislation to make things more complicated. One of the main reasons that doctors got balled up by these big hospitals is because the EMR mandates came out and physicians were like, these solo practitioners are like, okay, cool. You got Medicare patients. That's awesome. You want to keep seeing them. You have to start doing all this reporting. Yes. And then here's an EMR. It's going to cost you $40,000. Well, God, I can't do that. I don't have $40,000 spent on EMR. I used paper notes. Oh, no good. Paper notes aren't cool. Not cool at all. You got to actually submit electronically, and this ain't going to work. Mm-hmm. What am I going to do? Well, you could come join us. Mm-hmm. What's the deal? Well, we pay kind of what you make now. We'll basically you'll become an anonymous provider in our service system. Mm-hmm. Well, I've built a name in this community. I've been here for 40 years. No, you're not. You're going to just be Dr. Blah blah. Mm-hmm. Who works here and you're a proviver.
Well, there's a big name hospital.
And then one day you may piss us off and we may fire you.
Yes, a big name hospital.
Walked out of the building, just like a low life.
Yes. Yes, when I drive through Zephyr Hills in Dade City and I see all these offices that used to be physician offices, private practice, they're no longer there.
Yeah. It's sick. Anyway, one of the things that I wanted to end with is this Lullaby by Rockabye Baby, which is actually Tool Schism. But this actually song sounds almost as good as the Tool version. So this song of the week, it's Schism, Rockabye Baby lullaby renditions of Tool. Thanks for joining us. Join us on drtommyshow.com, drtommyshow.com. And if you want to come in and see what we're about here, breaking all the rules at Echelon-Health and not doing things by the book for being insurance providers and blah, 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 come see us at Echelon-Health in Tampa at Dr. Tommy, spelled out DOCTOR, Tommy.com, and we'll be glad to let you in on our little libertarian experiment here. Till next time, bye-bye.
Honey, you know you're a father. you.